What a magnificent church, which I'm sure has a fascinating history. We're meeting the rector to find out more.
We're standing in St Luke's Church in Sydney Street, just off the famous King's Road, and it's the parish church of Chelsea, and we're surrounded by beautiful gardens and children's playground. We know that we have between 500 and 700 people a week who come into church, not to services, but just to come in. St Luke's is a major part in the life of Chelsea, and in fact our strapline, our slogan is St Luke's and Christ Churches putting heart and soul into Chelsea. St Luke's was built as the new parish church of Chelsea between 1820 and 1824 to replace the old parish church that had been there from Doomsday, 1086, because it was believed to be no longer big enough to house the growing population. So when this church was built, the architect was a man called James Savage, and he favoured the reintroduction of the Gothic style, so it was called Neo-Gothic. It's the tallest nave roof of any parish church in London, and with a very heavy debt to King's College, Cambridge, with all these flying buttresses holding the church up outside. So there's a real sense in which he was trying to reintroduce a much earlier medieval style, but with the technical abilities of the 19th century. It was the pattern in the 19th century that on the whole, the great and the good would hire, they'd rent pews, and the nearer the front you were in church, the higher the rent. And the domestic servants would be upstairs in the galleries. And it's only a few years ago that actually the signs were painted out in this church that said domestic servants female in one direction and domestic servants male in the other direction. So while the masters and mistresses were worshipping Almighty God down here, there was quite a lot of winking going on between male and female domestic servants in the galleries upstairs. This church has played host to all sorts of events in its history. The civic service for the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea's marking of the Queen's 90th birthday, we had it here, and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester were here to mark that. Some of the early scenes of Empire of the Sun here, and also 101 Dalmatians was filmed here. And for those of you who know this sort of thing and are addicted to it, quite a few of the episodes of Made in Chelsea have been filmed either knowingly or unknowingly here. But even right back in its earliest days, in 1836, a soon-to-be very famous author called Charles Dickens got married to Catherine Hogarth here, and we have a copy of their marriage certificate downstairs, which is part of an ongoing exhibition that we have about Dickens's life and work. He was married here just 2 days after the first episode of Pickwick Pake was published. So I think he married as a sign of things looking good in the future, although the personal life, as we've seen in other films, of Dickens was somewhat complex. He married, in fact, a minor. She was underage when he married her. So interestingly, the marriage certificate states that she married with the express consent of her father because she was not old enough to give consent herself. If you look at the front of the church, the east end of the church, the altar's still in the same place, the commandments and the Lord's Prayer and the Creed are still in the same place. We're lucky enough to host the chapel of the Punjab Frontier Force, which is in our side chapel and which we use every day. And it's a great delight to use it, but also a painful reminder at the same time, because if you look carefully at what's there, it reminds us of the places we still hear about in the news, a daily reminder to us of the relevance of not only past imperial wars, but today's conflict in our world. We're lucky to have a really fantastic organ here in St Luke's. It was expanded and expanded in the 19th century, and then in 1932 completely reworked by a famous English organ builder called Compton. He was commissioned to make this the prototype for the huge organ in BBC Broadcasting House that was completed the year after this, but built on the model of St Luke's. So it's a very, very much, you've heard it here first, BBC came second.